Hello and welcome to Forbes's Gunners Show. Today we're coming off the loss from Leicester over the weekend. We got a match coming up on Thursday. I have finally got round to doing my comments and how a few things should be changing at Arsenal. Mikel Arteta, hear me out, man. Hear me out. But before I get into that, I just want to throw out a couple of shout outs to the Same Old Arsenal Show, Curtis TV Show, and the Cannon Fodder Show here on YouTube. If you haven't checked their channels, I'll put some links up here now that'll pop up. If you want to hear more things about Arsenal or all things Arsenal, please go ahead and hit those channels up and see them, as well as Charles Watt, fantastic news reporter from Goal, and he will give you the latest and greatest on Arsenal. Today we're going to be discussing a few things. So I think we can all agree that the Leicester game was probably our worst performance this season so far. It has cued a few people into really seeing where our weaknesses are. We should give credit to the best league in the world, the Premier League, and how competitive it is. There was always going to be a time when Mikel stepped into the role and he would have weaknesses. Like he picked out a few weaknesses in the few games where he started in other managers' tactics. He outsmarted them, he did well, put us in the FA Cup final, which we won. I think we're going through that similar phase when Mikel walked in, started with the 3-4-3, had some fantastic success using that system and is now wanting to change it. Should we be more patient? Is he selecting the right players? Please leave your comments down below. Anything that you've picked up in the last few performances from Arsenal would greatly help me out, and I'd love to share them here on YouTube with others who have the love and the passion for the Arsenal, the Gunners team. So please do leave those in the comments below, but I'm going to get stuck into the things that I've found out and that I've seen. Two very clear points. I think, firstly, defensively, we've been pretty solid. The error that came from the goal in the Leicester game from Vardy, we can see Mustafi came on, lapse of concentration, and the goal from Vardy. Did Brendan Rodgers play that system pretty well? Absolutely. Tillemans puts an absolute amazing ball through and ends up in the Vardy goal, but Mustafi makes the error. Gabriel's drawn across, and yeah, there's no cover. But that only came about because David Luiz had to go off with a muscle injury. He played in the Europa League game against Rapid Vienna. The man is not 21 years old anymore. And let's be honest, the first half had an absolute cracker. But defensively, we've been solid so far this season. And I think we've got the second best record in terms of defensiveness within the Premier League this season. And I think we will continue to be good. I think Gabriel has been absolutely spectacular so far this season. I think Partey's going to bring some real stability in that midfield. Granit Xhaka, I love you, my man. I love all Arsenal's I love all players at Arsenal, but sometimes you need a break. You played a lot of football last year, and I have to admit, against Leicester, you looked really tired. I know you ended up playing out of position at left back, but we've got better players, and I think the combination of Danny and Partey will be going forward this season. I don't know why we're not using Maitland-Niles. I think he's absolutely fantastic, extremely fantastic defensively, and I think with game time he'll gain that confidence and making those passes in the midfield. He was absolutely exceptional in both the FA Cup semi-final and the final, and I think with him in the side it would be absolutely phenomenal. And defensively we've been sound. Now this leads me into the second point: attacking. We won those FA Cup games when Aubameyang scored 2 goals and 2 goals. 2 against Man City, 2 against Chelsea in the final. Now, why is he not scoring now? It's not like we've had a change of players. Yes, Dani Ceballos was extremely poor against Leicester, I have to admit. But why was he so poor? He was not in the same positions that he was against Man City and against Chelsea. Why? He dropped deep. He did both of those things against Chelsea and Man City as well. He dropped deep and distributed well. He had space. But you will have seen that Partey sits very deep as well. And that when Xhaka fills in and goes into that left back position and Tierney pushes up, then he doesn't have that space anymore that he used to. And I think that was very well played by Brendan Rodgers. He shut Danny down, and I think we don't give enough credit to the other side. Yes, Danny made mistakes, was giving the ball away needlessly from time to time, but he's a human being. He's not going to be firing on all cylinders every single game, and he's young. He's been given the confidence of the manager, and I think we should give it to him. I have to admit that Dani Ceballos is superb when he's on the ball, but he needs a little bit of growth, and it'll come. It will come. I don't think we have to be worried about having a playmaker like who's on the pitch all the time. And like I said before, 42% of the possession when Leicester City, on average, won the Premier League. I think that says enough. So now back to why Aubameyang has stopped scoring. So because we've been defensively, he's had to play a bigger role, I think, over the last few matches, particularly against Leicester. When we have had that opportunity to counter-attack, he simply hasn't been further up the pitch where we've needed him. He hasn't been up there. Instead, we've had a couple of other players where, I mean, you think about Aubameyang put an amazing cross across to Hector Bellerin, and Bellerin fired it in. Unfortunately, didn't go in, but it was a great cross. Now, what happens if that was the opposite? Why is Hector Bellerin not the one crossing it into Aubameyang? And why should we now be considering giving Aubameyang a bit more opportunity to score goals? And I think we all agree that's affirmative. Now, the space that Aubameyang got against Man City was created because the centre-backs were drawn in when Lacazette went deeper into the midfield. How this happens is that the midfielders actually stay wide. So if Tierney pushes up on the left-hand side or Bellerin pushes up on the right-hand side, whether that's Pepe on the right or Aubameyang on the left, but rather Maitland-Niles created that space against Man City. And Lacazette then pushes into the up forward, into that half space. And there is where we see the beauty. So he pulls forward and he pulls in the centre-back, which then leaves space for Aubameyang to exploit. So there is the key right there. How do we create space for Aubameyang and the likes of Pepe and the likes of Saka? That's how we create the space. Putting those little chips over behind, allowing David Luiz, allowing Ceballos, allowing even Partey with a couple of odd chips over to give those guys the space. But we need to draw that back line forwards. How do we do that? Lacazette, my man, he's the key. People have been saying he's not on form, he's not scoring goals, and yeah, that's great. Can I just point out Firmino for Liverpool? His importance within that Liverpool system is huge. Does he score the most goals? No. If you have a fantasy Premier League team, do you think you have Firmino in it? No. You have Mane, you have Salah, because they are the goal scorers. But how are they always the goal scorers? Firmino makes the space. He's the one who makes the space. Lacazette needs to fill that role. He needs to stop worrying about he needs to score X amount of goals. That's not his role now. His role is to get the ball from the back, hold it up, create the space. That's what he needs to do. But he needs help as well. He needs movement from our midfield. He needs massive amounts of work from both Danny Ceballos, Partey and Xhaka, or Maitland-Niles or Saka when they're on the pitch. Those guys have to make the space, be available for a pass as soon as he gets it down off his chest or off his head or wherever it might be from. So that outside space, Pepe, Aubameyang, Saka, those guys, Tierney, Bellerin, they getting into the space up ahead and creating it. And that is from Lacazette creating the space. Now, we can't expect him to creating space and creating goals all the time. Pick what you want. And I think personally that if you're going to have a striker, he needs to be doing that role. That should be his role. And I think we're struggling to identify that as a fan base. And I think he's struggling with it as well. So that's all I have to say today about that. Let's hope tomorrow's fixture is better than Sunday, and let's see what Arsenal can bring to the table. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I hope you are too. And hey, if you like the content today, hit that thumbs up, comment down below, and consider subscribing to the channel. That helps me out hugely, and it means I can keep bringing content about Arsenal to you. On the back of awful Mustafi news or good Mustafi news, whatever camp you're in, let's hope we can take the Arsenal forward. Come on, the Gunners.